Any questions? Let's talk about loops and control flow, and that sort of thing. All right, so back to the boost. So for today, let me just give you a quick overview and a quick review of what we covered yesterday. I kind of do this every day. As usual, this happens because I usually tweak the outline in the 24-hour period between the time I made the video last time and this new one. This video marker is not there yet because it hasn't been 24 hours. So yesterday we covered functions and command communication, otherwise known as, subroutines, calling them, returning from them, passing values between them, return values, arguments, parameters, all that stuff. And then all the special ones. So we spend a lot of time on the special ones. If you have not watched this video, make sure you watch this video before you do any shell scripting. Particularly this stuff. And the necessity to quote stuff. I'm going to actually put another reference to this. Reminder about necessity of quoting. I'm going to do a quote for you so you can know what that means. Quote everything. There's a couple. In fact, I'm so paranoid about it that I quote stuff that doesn't need it, like stuff in a for loop you don't need to quote. So we're going to look at that today. We're going to look at for loops, while loops, all the looping is where the real magic comes when it comes to like repeats and stuff like that. So we're going to get into that. So let's get into it. The return values. Boom. I probably could add more stuff today, but I'm not going to. So we're going to talk about conditions, the use of test, and just some really fun stuff. If else, so if any of you have any, does every script need to take arguments? I imagine no, they don't. You can have scripts that just do a thing, and they're just a bunch of commands in a file, right? Yeah, I just wrote one of those yesterday. Actually, take no arguments whatsoever. So in fact, that's actually probably likely they're going to be the case. But if you need to communicate with a command, or you need the subcommands within that command, i.e. functions, procedures, whatever, if you need those things to communicate, they can do the same thing through arguments, parameters, the same way that math works, pretty much. How's it going, Dark Wiz? So let's jump right in. I mean, this is logic and flow and conditions and blah, blah, blah. So we're just going to jump right in. Raise your hand. I mean, you don't have to. There's only 22 of you here. But raise your hand if you have done anything with logic and conditions and stuff like that. I'm going to talk to you as if you've never heard anything about it before. But I suspect some of you have already done this. Yep. So all right. There you go. He's going. So I don't want to get you guys. I don't want to overburden you with this. Most people have done a lot of this stuff in multiple languages. An array, a script in POSIX. Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one, Maluba. Yeah. So I mean, that's a really great question. Maluba's asking a question: do arrays in POSIX exist? And they don't. So you have to usually get around them by chopping up something else, a file, a string, or something, and delimiting it. Bash arrays are the best way to go. Here we go again. How's it going, New Moon? All right, so I'm just going to throw it out there, and we can go through it. So the first place, this is going to seem counterintuitive, but the first place I want to teach you about conditions and looping is on the command line. And you guys have already talked to me about this being the way that I'm doing this, teaching shell as a first language, because it's already something you're using every day when you start in the Linux. Is counterintuitive. In fact, there's a lot of academics are raising their eyebrow at me going, why are you teaching shell? And as I've said many, many times, you put a bunch of stuff on the command line, you're already coding, you put those things in a file, you have a script you're programming, boom. By any official technical definition, you are programming. Yeah, don't let anybody make you feel less of a person. I only know how to code POSIX shell. You're doing it. So it's appropriate for us to learn conditions and stuff on the command line. You will execute conditions. CS flashback, right? You will use conditions from your terminal command line far more during the day than you ever will put in a script. I know that sounds really crazy. Most of the benefit of learning POSIX shell right from the bat, and including Bash actually, is another reason to learn POSIX shell, right? Is because all your command line skills will convey to Z shell. Some of them wouldn't if you learned in Bash. So this conditional stuff actually plays out on the command line. So let me give you an example of this. So the first one is short circuit logic. And this is, again, this is going to be totally backwards, because anybody coming at CS would teach you conditions. They wouldn't dream of teaching you conditions without teaching you if statements and all this other stuff. And I'm going to skip all of that. Actually, I'm going to teach you the condition before we do any of the rest of it. And we can do that on the command line. That's what makes Shell so awesome. So for example, what we've already looked at return codes. Remember yesterday we looked at return exit codes? Okay, this is really important. So let's do it again. So I'm going to ls-l something. Is there a something there? Okay, there is, right? Well, what was the return value of that? The return value. Remember how to look at, anybody remember from yesterday? How do I echo the return value? What is it? Anybody remember? What's the return value of the last command? Oh, it was 0, yeah, but how do I show it? No, not $1. That's the first argument. Good try. Yeah, somebody got it, but it doesn't display. somebody type this. Somebody type this in the chat. So Beta, that was really close. Good job. So it's actually this question mark. I don't know. What was the answer? You know. So that's it. Yeah, you got it. So this tells you it was 0, right? And we already talked about redirections. So what if I want to say, hey, all of you output, I don't care about you. You can send it all to dev null. And I'm gonna teach you a bash-ism. Here's a bash-ism, okay? To do this properly, you should probably do it like this. We did redirection a long time ago, and I'm gonna teach you a shorter way to do this if you really want. So that's the official POSIX way to do it. But because we're learning this on the command line, we're going to allow a bash-ism here. So just note in your notes that this is a bash-ism. But if you want this whole thing, just put the ampersand in front of there, and that covers both of them. And that only is a bash K-shell, Z-shell thing. Okay, so, but that says, just shut up. If you have an error, I don't want to hear it. If you have output, I don't want to hear it. By the way, what are the two types of possible output? Another review, another quiz there. I got to drink my coffee. 0 and 1. Oh yeah, that's true. But what are the yeah, I mean, output streams. Let's talk about something different here. So what are the I didn't ask that question very well. So what standard out, there you go. Standard out and standard error. Okay, so that's harking back to like what was that? Day 10, 11, something like that. Anyway, so here we have the thing. Now, I can actually change this up a little bit, and instead of echoing the return value, I'm going to join this. I'm going to treat it like a conditional. This is what's so cool. You can treat any command as a conditional. So you can say, okay, so if the answer is 0, that's true. I know I told you yesterday, it's totally backwards, right? You learned in computer science that non-zero values are true. No. In Shell and in the Unix world, 0 means true, positive, absence of all errors. There are no errors. There are 0 errors. That means it was good. So you just have to flip your thinking here. I'm sorry. But when it comes to true or false, you don't have to think about it, because you can just say this. Now, I'm going to use a short circuit operator on you. It's an AND operator. All right. So what this says is, okay, if the output of that, not the output, but if the return value of that is true, in other words, 0 in this case, then continue to evaluate the next thing. And I'm jumping all the way ahead to short circuit logic. That's what this is. Short circuit logic, which I really love, because it's exactly how the computer works, by the way. At the lowest level, this is how the computer, in the assembly kind of thing, this is how it works. It's like a logic gate. They sometimes call it a logic gate. So if this is true, then we'll AND it together to the next thing. That means, oh, well, in order for the whole thing to be true, we'll have to combine it with something else. Okay. So then we're going to say, and what? Echo. Yes. Now, what if I change it so that it can't see anything? It doesn't do it, right? Okay. Now, the more traditional if statement that you would see would be like this. Okay. So if, okay, let me give you another thing here. So I'm going to give you another one there. So All right, so if you put if here, how about this? If ls, I know this is gonna blow your mind, right? And now we're gonna end that line. I'm gonna say then echo yes phi. That just blew your mind. I know. All right, but now we can add an else. Now we're going to put this all, don't worry, we're going to put this all in a file. But I want you, I would never use an if statement on the command line. I normally use the short circuit stuff, but I just want to give you an example of it before we get diving into the deep part. So you can say then, and if you know else, you can say else here. Else echo no phi. Now if I do this, I change it to be sum, and it says no. Yes, no. Now let's take all of that line and put it into a single file. All right, so let's do that. So we'd say, I don't know, touch has something. I know I put a dash in my command. I'm such a bad person. It's better to put dashes in your commands than underscores. I swear to God. In your commands, if you're going to do that, put it in your command. I'm not talking about functions. Functions and underscores is generally better. I wish it would use kebab case. All right, so has something, and then we're going to paste it. Okay. Now, if we expand out what we just did, let's do that. Okay. Well, if we put a line return everywhere that there is a colon, which is the same thing that it means there. Now we get this. Now let's just clean it up a little bit. Let's give it some shell. bin sh. Now this, wait, what? This says that's a valid shell. Oh my God. I might have learned something today. I told you my bashisms are like still all over me, right? Now this is a little weird here. So there's a raging debate about whether the else should be on there. I'm going to go with the Google official style guideline on this. All the engineers at Google are required to put then on the same line. So we'll go with that. And then where does this else go? So we'll put the else here and then this here. All right. Now there's no reason that it couldn't be all jammed together or it couldn't be written as this. Right, those are best. This is very a kebab case. Oh yeah, kebab case. Yeah, it's kebab case. I actually really like kebab case. That's what I use for my JSON and stuff, which we're gonna do next week. All right, so what do we have here? So this is detecting whether we have this or not. So let's actually say, you know what? Let's rename it. Let's call it, instead of has something, we'll say has. Is there a word? Is there already something that says has? Type has. Is there already something with has? Nope. No such. No has. So we can has. So has. We can has. Oh boy, has. So now at has, we can make has instead of something. We can make it read a variable. What about that? How about that? And let's do that. Let's say. Well, right here, I can just replace this with just $1. Remember the $$ stuff? Yeah. So $1 goes for scripts as well as functions. It's one of the greatest things about shell and why you should learn it first. All right. So it says, do I have one? If I can list it out, I mean, this is definitely not the way you would do this, but it doesn't hurt to do this. Okay. This says, I'm going to long list this thing out. You would never even long list. You could just do an ls like that. Right. And we're going to throw away the output. We don't care. Is that my shell check is telling me this? Oh, okay. I was afraid that's true. See, apparently Dash supports that, but POSIX does not. So we're going to do it right. I actually wrote a macro for this. I did. I'm going to try it right now. All right. Boom. Darn it. It didn't work. Wait, here we go. Let me try again. I'm bad at macros. I'm just gonna tell you. I have not been doing them for very long. I made it. It's my macro is n for like dev null. No, it doesn't seem to be working. No, you know what? My n. It's using my if. Okay, never mind. Pretend I didn't say anything. You just saw my macro for go. 2 goes to at 1. Then there we go. Alrighty. The stuff that it spit out, yeah. So this is on my list of learning, and if NeoVim does this, maybe I won't bag on it so much. I know Vim does it though, so I want to be able to save all my macros and have them be different depending on what type of file they're running from. And I'm pretty sure I have to write a plugin for that, or I have to put something in my Vim script. And so anyway, if you were involved at all in the debate about Vim versus NeoVim versus VI, then that statement has relevance. Because macros are cool. I won't lie. They're a great way to save you time writing code. Another way to do that is to just put all of them in a program called Snippet and then just pull in the snippet. So there's that too. Anyway, so this says what? It says, I don't care about the output, just echo yes or no. So, no, that works in all shells, anything that's ever been compatible with POSIX shell. You do it in Bash all the time, yeah. Yeah, the ampersand one is Bash only. Bash and family only. In fact, I think it started in K-shell and went on to be a thing. By the way, so Gibbs, you're new. So anybody else who's new here, make sure you get shell check. Go apt install or whatever you want to do to go get that. That is your saving grace when it comes to writing POSIX scripts. Peter, shut up. Just be quiet in the corner. You smile like, all right. So here we have, your teacher ever tell you to shut up in class? Like literally tell you to shut up? Okay. If I start throwing my hat, that's when you know you've like crossed the line. I've done that like twice in 8 years. God damn it. Will you guys just shut up and listen? Okay. So in particular with smart people, I get smart people. We try to teach them. They're so hard to teach. It's like herding cats. You put terminals in front of them, it's even harder. Anyway, that's why the best learning is to just let people go experiment and do their own thing and then just kind of guide that. Because hopefully all of you are doing that right now. You guys are like, I'm sitting here rambling on and you guys are already doing stuff like, oh, he's talking about something, I'm going to go work on something. Which is fine. I want you to do that. Anyway, so what is this going to do? This is going to print, it's going to take an argument. Now what? So I have to run it. So has. So can I has something? Permission is denied. Why is permission denied? Oh my. I always do this. Who's going to be quickest to the draw here? There it comes. Schmucks. All right. So I have to say this. So I'm so lazy that I don't like to type schmod plus x has. I've mistyped that so many times that I've actually made an alias. I'm so ashamed. I'm so ashamed, and I'm gonna teach you how to make the same alias. So schmucks has. I actually could probably put touch the file at the same time. What about that? You can put that all in schmucks. You can make schmucks all powerful, and then we can like create the file and then touch it and make it executable. I already have a program for that. It's actually called newx, and it actually creates it in my directory wherever I want it. Yeah, I'll teach you about that one too if you want. You want to see it? Yeah, more. I mean, you guys are at experimentation phase. So yeah, watch newx, say hello, and say echo hello, and now watch say hello, boom. That's pretty fast, huh? Because I'm always adding new scripts all the time, and then you want to see where it is. You made a make script? Yeah, it's inevitable. This is the great thing about it. As soon as you start getting shell skills, you start making your own shortcuts and things, and that's all within the realm of Unix acceptability to do that. Creating aliases and shell scripts and all that stuff, that's all fine. And then you realize, hey, I want this thing that can't do what shell can do, so you write it in Go or Rust or whatever the fuck. I mean whatever. Whoops. I'm not supposed to swear on these streams. Anyway, so has can't be run from here, but we're gonna try it anyway. So let's try it. So /has is like, well, it's like, no, there's nothing for it to check. What's the problem? I'm not checking anything, right? Has something. Yes, I has a something. Do I has a license? Yes. Do I has a license? No. All right. So there's your first exposure to conditions. Now, there is a problem here. When it says has, it's like, no, it's like, my friend's PC, you can totally do that. Alias, yeah, no, don't do that. Did you see the I posted it in my Zet yesterday. If you look at my Zet yesterday, somebody in the Discord posted a legitimate link to an issue of a guy who he left a space after /user in an install script that did rm dash, it was an NVIDIA thing, rm-rf /user /whatever, and he put a space. He's put a space after user, and so people were running his install script as root, destroying their user directories. I thought it was fake. It looks like it's real. Yeah, it's in my Zet if you want to go get it. So, yeah, I mean that was like somebody. I posted it like yesterday or the day before. Anyway, it was just hilarious. So be careful. Don't troll your friends. And so anyway, back to this stuff. I mean, does anybody not understand what's going on here? So now I'm going to tell you why you should never use else ever. Else is the devil. So this is the kind of thing that you're not going to learn in computer science. Okay, they're not going to teach you this. This is like a pragmatic thing. Actually, I learned this from Go and the amazing programmers behind the Go language. Whether or not you like the language, you can't question the just amazing intelligence and design sense of Rob Pike, Rob Gressimer, and Ken Thompson. I mean, look up these names and see what they've done in history. And so some of their popular coding practices have kind of made it into the language. And one of the ones that I was never practicing before I started coding in Go is the sort of hatred for the word else. And I'm going to prove to you that there's very, very, very few cases where you ever need to use the word else. Okay. And so you can do this, right? Let me just ask you guys, knowing what you know about functions, how could you fix this so that, I mean, we already talked about just doing a function, just doing a main function no matter what. Remember that? Remember we talked about doing that? So let's do that right. I mean, we could do this with main if we wanted to, and we could use exit. Okay. So actually, let's do that first. With return early, right? Return early. Return early is the way to replace else, and I need to do a Z on that. So in fact, do I not have that in here? Let me check my thing. I want to make sure. I got to check. Is it in here? What else? Oh yeah. Return early instead. All right. Return, continue, whatever. All right. Yes, Juan, we can do that. I think that's what we should do, right? So how do I get rid of this? If I get rid of the else, what do I do? Put the echo down here. Okay. But this is still going to work. This is going to work, right? Let's try. I'll show you. Watch, this is broke, right? So has no, has no, yes, no. What is that about? Oh, I forgot to exit, right? So exit goes here. Is that a positive or a negative condition? Is it an error? Not an error, right? If it was an error, I would put exit 1 or 234 or whatever. But it's not. So I can just leave it off or do exit 0 if you really want. You can't do exit yes. Can't do that. So that's not, because that would be the echo yes, exit. Yeah, you guys got it. So that's okay. So Darkwiz, that's a great question. That if there's more code below, then you have a problem with how you've written the code. And that's probably the least palatable way to put it, but it's true. If your code can't be short-circuited out of or returned early out of, that means that you have got something really messed up with your flow, because your flow may be deeply nested. If you have more than 2 or 3 levels of nesting and you cannot exit early out of a thing because you don't know what line to go to or how to get out of it or how to continue it, and you got to like put labels on stuff, you got a problem with your code. And in fact, one of the primary principles of Go coding is left justified. So they would rather you write more code total and keep the code left justified so that your eye can travel down and follow what's going on. And then the only thing that's nested is the exceptional kinds of paths that are not in the sort of the blue sky path, which I've heard a long time ago. I don't know where I heard that. It was a Solaris conference. The blue sky is like, okay, this is the code with no problems, and here's the thing over here. This is another reason I despise exceptions. And if you know about exceptions, we can talk about that later. But I think exceptions are one of God's greatest punishments to mankind, and because they put off all of the work of dealing with this, and it just destroys your blue path scenario. And it causes you to miss out all of the alternative paths where they occur in the code, and it just puts them all off and groups them all down on the bottom, like 2 or 3 pages down below. It's a horrible idea. I think it is. I think it's better to we'll see. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so basically what we're thinking of doing, and by the way, if you we're going to have one. We're going to be doing some of that. It's at the end of all of this. We're going to do some fun time, and I've got a bunch of coding challenges that we can write. And I want to see which ones you guys write, and I compare them. So the reason that if you keep else's out of your code will automatically become more compatible with how the computer works underneath. And so you'll end up writing code that can be short circuit operator kind of used in that way, and it just makes your code so much cleaner. So for example, this little else statement, right? If echo else, so it's like then echo else, right? So how or echo no, right? And that's chaos. That's exactly one way you could do it from the command line. So I'm thank you for that example. You don't need the test even. I don't think. I think you can get rid of the test because it's a urinary. I believe so. I believe I think you might have to get rid of the test. He's using a command we're going to use today and pretty soon here. All right. So one way to do this, so you obviously the main path would not be the way to do this. I think it's an anti-pattern to do main code at all. I think the best way to do this, even if you don't think it's the way to do it. Here's why. You know what? I'm going to make a function that's exactly the same name as my code. Why? Why am I going to do that? Because the chances of me wanting to cut and paste this code into another big script sometime is high. So, I mean, these are the kind of things they're not going to teach you in school. But if you turn everything you're writing into a function, no matter what, even if it has to be a procedure, function, whatever, subroutine, then you've automatically created stuff that can be put into an exportable function in Bash. It can be copy and paste into somebody else's code. You've made modular code, and it will make you a better person later because you can just go copy and paste that somewhere where you want. So I know it seems like silly to do this, but here's this. I'm telling you about this right now because this specifically changes the code that we're writing. A code library, right? So your scripts library is no longer just a scripts library. Remember that little curl thing that you did once upon a time to send a mark to Twitch on that particular time, and it's doing that thing? Well, because you wrote that as a function in some random script over there, you can either copy and paste that into it, or if you really want, you can put all those into a source library and you can source them. Now, I disagree with breaking up unnecessary libraries and sourcing them, even if you're not using half the stuff in there. But the copy and paste ability of it to be able to reuse your code is what you're going for here. Everything to be a function. Well, most languages do force it to be a function, but the reason I brought this up is because this is the code we had right now. Okay. Now that's a problem, right? Why is this a problem? Why is having exit in here a problem? Everybody take a moment. Yeah. We're going to talk about that. Sort of, kind of, yeah. It's related, but no. So tell me what's wrong with this code. Why is having exit in here a bad idea? Has something, has license. What's wrong with this code? What's wrong? Script by itself, you said only the command line. Okay, that's a great question, Chaos. We'll talk about that in a second. It'll exit out, right? Does everybody see that? I'm going to show you this so you can see. It won't get to the second one. Why? Because it's an exit. And the reason I'm telling you about this is like, what? It didn't work. The reason I'm telling you is because by putting everything into a function, you don't have to rewrite it later. Now, if you just wrote a really simple little script and you use exit in there, you'd have to go rewrite the whole thing rather than getting into the habit of writing everything as a function. If you treat everything as a function and you break it out, if you have a really deeply nested thing and you have else's in there and nests and stuff, there's a good chance that you probably needed another function or procedure in there. You see what I'm saying? And some would say that I fail on the side of functions. If your function, unless you have a really, really good reason, and there's very few of them, unless you're like writing a compiler, in which case you're probably going to use goto and all kinds of, wicked stuff that you shouldn't ever use. You should never have a function that spans more than a page or so of screen or text. And that is a very unpopular opinion. But I believe that is the safest way to go. I know there's indirection there. If you're a high performance C coder, premature optimization is the root of all evil. That is like a famous quote in the coding world. And that would be one of those cases. What is more important is that you write understandable code. Even if you write a function that has one purpose and it has one line, like I did yesterday. Yesterday I wrote 15 functions, 12 functions that all had one line in them. And I'm going to get to you, Chaos, about your one-liner, and just put that in there, and then bring it all together. Because what you're doing is you're writing something that somebody's going to have to read, right? If you're the only one reading it, and gets to Chaos's point. So Chaos said, readability matters, and I know you think that this is just a shell script, nobody cares, and I'd be the first person to say write it all in Perl because it's a one-liner and it's contextual heavy and nobody else can read it. It's all chicken scratch. And if you're doing a competitive coding competition, or you're hacking for your life and every keystroke matters and you don't need to read the code later, then maybe, make it dense. But so to address, the first thing we need to do here is we need to change exit to return. All right. Both of them are valid. Now we don't need return on the last line because it's automatic, right? The last line, they automatically will return 0 if there's nothing on the last line. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So there you go. Yeah. So like if you're doing now this code will now work, but let's get back to Chaos's point about let's see, make sure it still works. Yes. So let's get to Chaos. Chaos asks the point, well, why can't you just put my one-liner in there? And you absolutely can. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, let's do it. I'm going to give you credit. So Chaos has, how about that? We'll make Chaos wrote us a really great one-liner. You got it there for me? Let me go steal it. I'm going to steal it. I don't want to type it all in. Where is it? There we go. All right. So he wrote, or he or she, I don't know, they. Okay, I'll use they. Look, I'm getting good. Oh my God. Rob, really? I can't graphic. I can't graphic. So now Chaos is famous. I like it to be a community. This is community. Learning in a community is way more fun. So this person, they have used exceptional use of short circuit logic. And I love it. I love short circuit logic, and I would love this. Now, you could almost even get really pedantic and put it all on one stinking line and put a semicolon there. Yeah, man. Now my function is one line long. Readable? No. In fact, the reason that people bag on Perl all the time is that, oh, thanks, Berlin, that the reason that people bag on not chaos, but on the reason that they bag on Perl all the time is because Perl is so contextual. You can write what would cause somebody would need to write in Python, for example. In Python, they would have to write 30 lines of code, and in Perl, you can write it in one line with maybe 20 characters. And it's amazing. It's just amazing, but it's not enterprise. You would never want to open that up on some random Tuesday, working for your company and go, oh my gosh, I have to decipher what's in this. The reason Python won over Perl for enterprise programming, which Perl was never intended to do, is because of clarity. And then Python people went ahead to use comprehension and lambdas in ungodly ways and make it completely unreadable and just as bad as Perl. Doesn't matter. Python was designed to be readable. It takes you god-awful long time to run it and write it. But when you read it, it's nice and clear and it's more maintainable. At least that's the idea. Now, that's true of Go as well. It's not true of a number of other languages, which I won't get into right now. But so the reason that the short answer to Chaos's question is why not this is because this is harder to grok long term. Now, who knows? Maybe I just want to cut and paste that. It depends on what you want to use it for. If your future anticipated usage is to cut and paste that into some other shell script that's going to live for a long time, you probably want the more verbose one. If it's going to be, I want to cut and paste that onto the line, it's kind of like my little bookmark, so I can just go do it from the line. Remember that one line? Maybe you wanted the short form. By the way, I don't think this test is needed. I want to check it right now, though. We're going to try it. So I'm going to change his has. Oh, you guys want to know something? I don't know if this works. We're going to try something. I don't know. I've never done this. So here we go. I'm going to try to rechange the pointer. Has equals chaos. Now you can do this in Bash. It's called pointer referencing. And Perl, you can do it. I don't think you can do that actually. I think I'd have to do an eval. No, I know I can't do it. Not worth our time. We're almost done. So chaos has. Watch this new one. I just don't. Okay, we're going to screen keys. This is what I was talking to Prime about today when he came in for the brief moment of time when they accosted us. So let's say you're here and you're in the middle of the word and you want to change that word. C, I, capital W, or just W. If you have dashes in there, you need a capital W. So that says chaos has. So if I go over here, I can do a period, and it does the same thing all over again. I go over here and do a period, boom, it changes it. Isn't that cool? So I love me some, like, here we go. So CAW has, oh, no. It's I. You want the I because the A gets the extra space. You don't want that. So CIW has, no, echo. Yeah. Anyone can fix and mess the code. Yeah, there's a really solid, movement towards clean code. The clean code matters way more than clever code. You want your code to be clean and simple. You do not want to flex in your code. And I know when you're young, I don't know how many times I have run into this, but young people who are brilliant, who can do amazing things, like to flex in their projects. And so they'll show me their like really amazing code. So you see what I do? I see what I did there? And I'm like, oh my God. And I'll show them my way and they think I'm stupid. It's like, okay, let's outdo each other. This is not a Perl obfuscation contest, people. This is a write clean code competition. How easy is it to read in Grok your code? That's your primary, justification. It's not how cool you are. This is not the time for you to express that. If you want to do that, go enter a coding competition or do some, athletic coding, they call it, or any of that kind of thing, or enter a Perl obfuscation contest or something like that. Yeah. And those are fun. Oh my God, those are so much fun. In fact, BrainF as a language was created to see how good your compiler is, how good of a compiler you can make. So I'm all for that, but just don't do it in production code, not even your own production code. And if you see people do that and they're like, particularly young people that will look at the Graybirds and they'll be like, or whatever, and they'll be like, you just don't like my code. And they'll like pull a full-blown Anakin on you. They'll do a full-blown Anakin. You're just trying to hold me back. They're like whiny Anakin with his, rotating the balls in his hand like he does, They don't understand me, Padme, they don't understand me. They're just holding me back. They don't understand my power. I'm more powerful than them. They don't understand. They can't even understand my code. It's so amazing. They just need to let loose my code. No, don't be Anakin. Be the boring Obi-Wan who knows how to write things down in the proper way, because that's code is going to be read way more. So you get that for free. So I really, really love this line of code. I love it. That's what I would do on the command line. I tried to show you that, right? Everybody knows the debugger is twice as hard at writing a program in the first place. So if you're as clever as you can be when you write it, how will you ever debug it? Carnigan said that. Yeah. I use the Anakin analogy all the time. It applies to at many levels. Yeah. Because I constantly have taught people that get so much power and they get so reinforced by all the people around them who are, no mages or whatever, or muggles. I'm like crossing my metaphors, but or analogies. There's no Star Wars. There should be a dying Death Star emoji. So anyway, let's try Chaos's program. If nothing more, this has been fun. Uh-oh, there's a problem. I detect a problem. There's a disturbance in the force. So it seems that Chaos's code. Chaos, no offense, dude, but I have a feeling it's the test. I have a feeling it's the test. Please, we're all friends here, okay? So I'm not bagging on you here. But I have a feeling it's the test line. So we're going to change this back to this one and see if indeed the code is the same. Oh, okay, my code works. I know mine's plain. Can I just tell you, do you know how many times I've taken a really cool short circuit operator like this and put a boring if statement in and just tossed my hands in the air and said, screw it, this isn't working. I want to make sure this works. The reason this is happening is because of the test operator. I'm almost positive. So let's try it like that. And we'll get to the test operator next. We have time. It's the most important thing you're going to learn in POSIX when it comes to conditions. So there we go. Oh, that's not a true test, Rob. Actually, why don't I leave them all on, huh? How about that? What do you think of that? I'm gonna put a bunch of dashes here to disambiguate the code there. So now we have it. Okay. So that was it. So this already had the return value of this does not need a test. And so that's actually a really good segue. So I'm gonna go refill my coffee. I'll be right back. I'm gonna run an ad, and I'll only be about a minute, so don't go away too far. And when we come back, we'll learn the test operator, the most important operator command/thing in all of today's lesson. All right. Okay, I'll be right back. No, that was actually really good, Chaos. No, I got nothing bad to say. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. But there's a lot of really great stuff in that, and so when you offer, and by the way, the rest of the community, be brave. Throw stuff out there at me, your take on something, and we'll learn together. This is not about who's right or wrong or who's going to screw up or anything. You're interrupting my stream.
I know, you can have a little, it says, as long as you don't get drunk.
Well, now you give up my secret. They think this is coffee.
Oh, did you? You didn't take any yet.
Yeah, I did.
No, you
It's
didn't.
right here.
You opened it. Oh, it's a twist top.
It's a twist top.
My teacup?
We're supposed to. This isn't your teacup. This is my cup that I got out.
Oh, I thought I was drinking out of that before.
No, unless I switch cups without knowing.
You switched cups without knowing. That was the one I had my tea in. It wasn't red. This is a little tea flavor.
Yes, yeah. You're interrupting. I only have 10 minutes more. Okay, say hi. Come here. Say hi. Say. Oh, Sam's here too. Sam's, come say hi. We were trying to.
Up.
Sam.
Up. Come here. Up.
She's hiding. I don't know what she's doing. All right, that was a little loud.
Okay. Bye.
All right, bye. Back to class. Hey, Breno. She's like she was.
We're going on the patio.
Okay, fine. I know. That's you getting the true skill stack experience. That is exactly what would happen in the classroom, which was my front room converted for years. And my downstairs in our townhome, I converted the whole downstairs into a sort of classroom. And my wife would just come wandering in. Can you code something for me? No, not right now. We're in the middle of a class. I know it doesn't seem like it. Sort of learning session thing. So we're going to learn the test operator. And no, I don't code stuff for people. I'm too busy. There's probably a lot of people here who can. If you want to have a conversation that's not recorded for time and all eternity on YouTube, please put an exclamation point in front of what you're saying. Okay, I don't have any of them. All right, so let's talk about the test operator. What is a test operator in the first place? So let's go back to this command line thing. So most commands have return values, right? And that, as we just saw, right? I don't need to pull that up again. You guys already saw it. I wonder. I think we already have one doing this, right? So most stuff already has. Oh no. We're not going to use that at all because that's actually Chaos. Since you mentioned it, we're gonna. I'm not picking on you. I swear to God, I'm not picking on you. Chaos. It's the first language you learn Bash, right? Yeah. So you're actually making a really good case. I did the same thing. So I allowed myself to use Bash for an entire year of 2020, and I continue to hit things that are not POSIX. So what he's talking about doing, and we'll get it. You know what? I'm going to wait. Okay. That is an incorrect statement on many levels. Okay. So first of all, double brackets are Bash only. All right. And if you write in Bash, yes, exactly. Actually, more specifically, test equals. Hey Vera, he's been writing POSIX for a long time too. More specifically, test equals this. And that doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to explain myself. All right, so this is one of the weirdest, most esoteric things in all of Shell. And yeah, double equals is not POSIX. Yeah. So what I have to, let's just learn test first. I have a hard time going through this one with people. This is the first time. So if you do, first of all, ls-l already has a return value. We already showed that, right? Everything already has a return value. So 9 times out of 10, I did that backwards. God damn it. All right. So, yes, it is. Yep, it is. And it is in shell, in POSIX shell, but it is not in Bash. It's built-in. So that I didn't kind of want to go there yet, but so let's do this. Echo. So there, we did ls-l. Let's do ls something, and we get a return value of 0. If we do sum, we get this return value, right? And we can already use, yeah, because I tried to run it. That was stupid of me, because I didn't put the echo in front of it. And so you got to understand, it tries really hard to do what you want, and it tried to run 0 as a command. I could even make a 0 command and it would have run it. So it's largely just interpreting the shell scripts as is. All right, so, but the only time you would really need to use test, so let me first, if you really want to just cut to the chase, do this. Man test. Just go read man test. I am constantly pulling up man test because test gives you all of the switches for everything you could ever imagine. So it gives you like the Booleans, or we're getting all of those. But the ones that I really have to look up, that I have a hard time remembering, is what is this switch that tells me whether it's a block special device or a directory or a file or man if. No, you can't. For that you have to do man dash or you can do man bash. Bash has those in there. So this is where, by the way, you will learn that test. I learned this. I actually did this last week. Right here. See the description of the test built-in command. So when you use Bash, there's a number of things that are different. This is not a lesson about how Bash is different. One of them is that the test command is actually a keyword in Bash. It's not a separate command. The brackets that we saw are also built in, but in POSIX shell they're not. In Dash they're not. So but Dash is our version closest we can get to POSIX today. So binsh, right? So here you'll see, if you search for test, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, see there, test is a separate thing, so it's not a built-in. See, here we go. The test expression, the test utility, not built-in, evaluates the expression, and if it evaluates it, returns a 0. This is from the old world of like having, multiple things come together. So even conditional evaluation was left to a separate program. That's how intense they were about the Unix philosophy. They're like, even, the treatment of these compound conditions. Let's talk about that. Compound condition is those ands and ors and stuff. So let's just zip through that really quickly and turn my Pomo off. Pomo stop. So and the operators for conditionals are there to help us join and to have compound conditions. And a compound condition is when you have more than one thing in a row. And then ultimately the result is either true or false, 0 or non-zero, but you can think of it as a true or false, by the way. In every other language, the type of a thing when it's true or false is considered to be a Boolean. Now, Boolean very specifically means a true or a false condition, but that has come to mean many things to different languages, and I don't want to confuse anybody right now. This would be one of those moments if we were doing polyglot programming. I would show you what a Boolean looks like in every language that we have, queued up for scripting. And there. So, for example, true. So you can actually do this. So true is a thing. So type true. What is true? True is a shell built-in bash. Now, if I type sh, type true, what is it? True is a shell built-in, even in this. Type test. Test is a built-in in dash. That's interesting. I did not know that. That's interesting. I wish we could get an actual Warren shell script. Does somebody have BSD still? Dark, were you the one who did it for us last time? So this means that they've made test a built-in. In POSIX, the original test is a separate file. So yeah, type. So that's interesting. Yeah. So that's actually really good. That explains a lot. That explains why Dash is so much faster than Boolean code. Now I know why it's so much faster than Bash too. Because what they did is they made these things that used to be separate commands, and they've built them into the language as built-ins, which I find pretty interesting. Which type? Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if that type command. They're different though. So at least you'll know that originally that they were different. So type is it's watch. There's actually a type. Watch. There is a true command. See that? In fact, a lot of times if you want to create a file that's huge, you can just loop and cat bin true to a file. People do this all the time, or bin false, which is I think zero, just zeros. And so this is a little confusing in shell because there are these things that exist. You can actually do which one of those, and you can see that files exist. And check it out. You can actually edit the thing, and you can see that it's a real binary. This is like off the rails for beginners, but oh well. So yeah, it's an ELF binary. Yeah. Let's see what it's linked to. Oh, hey, look, it's user bin left bracket. It's actually a thing. I wonder if it's the same as the test operator though. Should we see? I wonder if it's the same. Oh, look at that. It's exactly the same size. Ooh, let's try something. Let's compare them together, shall we? Let's diff. Let's binary diff. An ELF binary, we covered those earlier. An ELF binary is a compiled program on a Linux system using ELF. I'm sure Vera, somebody could click on that better for us. It's a program that's been compiled. Short story. It's not a hard link. Look, I thought it might have been a hard link. It's not there. It's just about being built in or not. Because of subprocesses, and we're not going to get into that until tomorrow. Remember that whole tree thing I was talking about yesterday? So subprocesses slow you down. You don't want subprocess. Subprocesses really ruin your day. And we're going to talk about that when we parse text. It is kind of, yes, it is sort of like that. Yeah. So I'm at this point, I'm just playing here because I'm super curious to see if these binaries are the same file. They differ apparently, so they're slightly different. Well, and if you're using Dash, you're not even using them, which I find super fascinating. Why do they even include them then, right? I don't know. There's no way for us to know that. Why do you care? Because what is test? So read the man page. The test is a way for you to combine conditions. You don't need test if you're just using one command. ls something is already an evaluation. It's already a conditional, right? And echo yes. All right. It's already a condition. No such file or directory, right? But we're gonna tell it to shut up. So you get my point. You're following me, right? That's why Chaos's combination, when he put the test in front of it, it messed it up because it didn't need it. Now, if we had two conditions, so if you had done this, let's try this. So let's do ls something. And that's an and for the test command. Let's get rid of this stuff for now. And so if ls something, and I don't even know if this is going to work. I don't think it will. I think I'm going to, because it's going to get combined into the wrong thing. And I don't know. Might as well try it. I'm in uncharted waters here. So what is that going to do? Is it going to do it? It did it. No, it didn't do what we thought because it did the A. But watch if I do test this. I wonder if that's going to do. Test has too many arguments. Yeah. I don't think it's going to do it. I think to do this, you have to do this. I'm pretty sure you have to do this. I'm going to try this. Nope. How about this? I don't think, well, I don't know. I'm having fun here. I apologize. LS something. I don't know. I'm just playing. Don't judge me. I don't know if this is even going to work. I'm just experimenting. Ooh, that worked. Echo, what was it? 0. How about this? Uh-oh. Still 0. That's not good. That's not good. How about this? Let's like group them together. How about this? Let's do this. Let's do LS something. And then a colon. How about that? We'll group them. You guys know parentheses, right? I don't have to teach you that. So, did you find them? And something does not exist. So, how about this? Let's do and echo. Echo 0. So it says there. So that's a fail, right? Because that actually no, that's not a fail because it gave us whatever the last one was. And echo. Wait. Yes. So that's interesting. What are we trying to do? I'm just trying to combine some of these conditions. So we go back to the simple. Let's go back to simple conditions again. All right. Sorry. I'm sorry. I was kind of off the rails. I'm just going to tell you right now. Short circuit logic is something that I really love because I started out with Perl and a bunch of stuff. And so finding different ways to do short circuit logic is really interesting to me, but I should really not be bothering with that. I should be bothering with writing plain old code like this because I just know this works. And this is helping you understand it, but I get sucked into the rabbit hole like I just did. And that's what I was doing. I was playing around with all the different ways to do it on a single command line. Yeah, well, I don't like, let's see, if dash E, yeah. So that's one of the reasons I want to use dash LS. So you're thinking ahead of me here, Grateful. So LS dash 1, rather than doing that, let's just see if it exists. Well, rather than doing LS and all this stuff, there's actually a test thing we can do instead. All right. Is that it? I don't know. We'll have to see. Pyros, you guys can play with that. I got to move on to more saner things. So we can look into the man page about tests. How do I see if a file exists? All right. File exists. There we go. CE. How about this? File exists. -E file. So close that out because you're using your man page. Now I can replace LS with test-E. Yeah. That might be it. Maybe. I don't know one. Did you find one that worked? So there we go. Test-E $1. Exactly the same thing without the stupid dev null stuff, right? Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Let's try it. So let's do has. Oops. Has, and that's checking. We already have it pre-built to do all of that. But you see nothing broke there, right? We just did test-E. Well, let's say we wanted to test for 2 different files, right? So let's say I want to test for 2 different files. I could do this. I could do dash. Let's see. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to do it exactly like you would do it, which would probably be, you would say, maybe I'm doing internet search. So man test. How do I do and operator? Where is the and operator? And. Okay, so here they are. Oh, here we go. Both this and this are true. -A. Okay, so, and if you come from a bad Python background, you're like scratching your head right now. You're like, why is this whole bunch of options? And it's because it's, it was the original thing. It's been around for a while. So that says, if test E and A, if the first one and the second one, then echo true. All right. Now, what happens if we don't send them? You know why it was no? This one still worked because it's not looking at the second one, so we're going to remove this one for a second. Thanks, Chaos, for that. But let's just remove that for a second. Why are those both no? Why are those both no? Those are both no because I only passed one thing in. If I pass, yeah, all right. So if I pass two things in, license, and if you can probably see ahead here, we're gonna get to a loop here pretty soon too. So now we do this. We do has, yes, it's true. Now what if I actually got rid of this? And remember we taught you yesterday, what is this special way? No, no, you cannot. I don't know. I know. I want to try it just because you asked. No. The answer is no. Until I've been proven differently. No, because it needs to process them individually. It's two separate conditions. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, in that case, no. So they're all individuals. Now you can put quotes around them. You don't need to, right? So yeah, you guys got it. All right. So this way, instead of it using whatever I typed here, it's going to take whatever I typed in. We learned that yesterday. So then I can say has is going to be no because I didn't tell it anything. Some is going to be no. What if I need something? It's like, what? Okay, I need something and a license. Yes. Okay. And I can put another. It's just not going to matter, right? Still yes, because it's only checking the first two things. Now, wouldn't it be cool if it checked every single thing that I passed to it? Wouldn't that be cool? Now that is a case where we're going to need to loop. If we don't, I mean, if the alternative would be this, right? -a, -e, and we put a -3. You're like, no, this is getting really crazy really fast, right? So now it's time to do a loop. And that's the other thing I want to introduce today. We only have 15 minutes, so we'll spend that time on loops. There's so much on conditions to talk about. And as I said, the purpose of Boost is to show you what you need to learn, not to show you everything here. So your homework today is going to be go research everything you can about the test operator. You should have the entire test operator man page, the test man test. You should memorize that. I mean, seriously, you should memorize the test man test. Okay. So how would we do this? Well, first of all, let's just limit. This is called separation of concerns, or do one thing well. That's the Unix philosophy. The Unix philosophy is, once again, do one thing well and make sure it integrates. And people leave the second part off all the time. There's an Oxford professor that has a YouTube video on that. It's amazing. He's like, people forget that it's not just supposed to do one thing well and stand alone and have nobody else ever talk to it. It's supposed to do one thing well and integrate well. That means good standard in and out and parameters and signals and all that jazz. So we're going to do one thing well here. -e, do man. Okay, so how would you know? You would do man test. I'm going to search for -e, and I'm going to find -e here. There it is. -e tells me that a file exists. Okay. So I'm exiting the man page, and then again, memorize man test as much as you can. It's got every possible condition you could ever imagine is in there. The grouping of conditions and everything. So there's no way I can cover all that right now. I'm running out of time. But we do this. We got one thing we want to check. We want to check that first argument. Okay. So that means it's kind of implied that if it doesn't exist, it's going to be no, right? And let's do this. Let's say, okay, well, let's just go for that. And let's just keep it like that. So what? But this is only going to do the first one, right? So that's still a problem. If I do this multiple thing, it's like, yes, right? Well, what? That's obviously false because there's no such thing as another. So that's wrong, right? And I can put a warning. I mean, I can do all kinds of fancy stuff. You guys remember that one? I could do this. I could say, if I wanted to make sure it was just one command, I could say, I could change this to be one. And we could do another if statement really quick. We have time. Let's do another one. We could say if. You guys remember this one? So here's where test comes in, right? So if that is how many arguments were set. If that is I mean, there's lots of ways to do this. Not equal. How about that? Let's try that one. Not equal to 1. Then phi exit 1. Okay, because was this an error, right? We could say echo. And we could say usage, whatever, has, and then path or file or something, right? And if you're going to do it even fancier, we're going to redirect this output, instead of it going to standard output, instead, because we might screw up a log or something, we're going to, we can do that too. we're going to do, well, is greater, we're going to redirect to 2. So now it's going to, that says, I want this to be written, but I only want it to write to standard output. I mean, standard error. So if I did that right. So /has, and then it says there, right? Now watch this. What happens if I try to redirect that to a file to like has.out? Why didn't it redirect? Because I sent it to standard error. So if you're going to send usage, people do this, people fail on this all the time. They send non-important output to standard out instead of standard error all the time. And now you know not to do that. Okay, because all you have to do is that, and then that message doesn't get accidentally put in a log someplace without necessarily, some people want those errors logged, in which case you would write it in the, but that's how to do it properly. So this says, if I have less than one argument, if I don't have exactly one argument, then show a usage error. So let's do something, and we get our yes. If I do something else, I get a usage error. Okay, so this is, I wanted to show you this other check because I wanted to show you where these special variables come in. Every language has some way to tell how many arguments you have, and that's how you would do that. But let's make it so it supports multiple things. So here I go. I'm going to actually select this whole thing, and I'm going to send it to CMT, which is my little filter that adds comments. And now I can change this back to do multiple, and then we'll be done for tonight. So we need to now have it do something with all of these, right? Now I could put the loop in here, or I could put it here. It's like, and so yeah, there's lots of people proposing stuff. This is awesome. Keep it coming, people. If you have your solutions, keep them coming. I love to see that. That's what this is about. It's a lab. So I personally want to make it so that this can be called in multiple ways. So I'm going to put the loop here. Okay. I could have put the loop down here, but then, it kind of gets crufty. I kind of like trying to decide, where does this belong? Which function gets this functionality? And this is a real core thing though. It's a real core thing. When you are designing your code, one of the toughest decisions is, where does this code go? Does it go in this method? Does it go in this function? Is this procedure? Does it need to be a method at all? Should it be a function instead? Those are the decisions that are going to really distinguish you from everybody else. Because if you give that time, that's what makes it an art, instead of just, throwing stuff out like a science or some kind of service or something. So we are going to say, we're going to change this. Now I could even make, if I really want to get crazy with this, and I could do this, I could say has all, you know what I mean? And then I could say this, and I can put my loop in here. Now, I understand this is probably getting overly granular with it, but there's nothing wrong with doing this. And then maybe some other time you want to just check one file, right? So you can do it however you wanted to do it, but if you wanted to do it as two separate ones, you would put a for loop in here. I just don't want to add another level of nesting here, to tell you the truth. So here you could do this. You could say, we're going to do a for loop now. Now, we're not going to be able to get to the for loops. We might have to do looping a little bit tomorrow, and it's probably good because it goes with it. So the most basic loop is just a for loop. And a for loop says, and I always use I, because it's easier to type. You'll see people doing it all the time. In, and then what you do? You do a bunch of things that have spaces in between. And in this particular case, however, there's no easy way to pass a lot of arguments. Right? So how would I do this in POSIX shell? Now I'm working myself into a corner here because I know how to do this with bash because it has arrays and this doesn't. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this, people? I think we're going to have to use our special operator here, and I didn't want to. I did. I got myself in trouble here. I know how to do this in bash. because I don't know, think about it. So let's first of all just do for by itself. All right. So let's go back to the command line and maybe we'll end with that. So I use for constantly on the command line. For is probably the most common power command on the command line out of all of them, because you can do this. I can say for I in globstar /readme.md. And then for each one of those things, I can just echo the file name and be done. read me. Right? Now, I could have done that like this too. You guys are probably out there just, yeah, I could have done it like that too. Same thing, right? But in this particular case, I can actually do more than just echo it, right? So I could say I want the first line of each one. Now, to do this so that it's safe, I should probably wrap that in quotes. And now I have the whole thing. Using a for loop on the command line is one of the most common things that you're going to benefit from, because you can have it operate on multiple things. And although short of this compared to find, which we'll do someday, this is like really amazing. All right, so I just and you see what it did? If I were to just echo ## readme.md, or I'm sorry, splat, you see all these? And so this is what the for loop sees. It sees this, how's it going? And then it says a blank, it says a blank, and it says this, and it says a blank, and it says this, and it says a blank, and it says this, and it says a blank, right? And what for is doing, it's using a thing called the IFS, the input record separator. We'll get to that later. And it's basically taking the output of all of that, and it's doing one thing at a time, right? Now, you can do a bunch of things with this. Can we, Ghost, we're in the middle of a YouTube video, so can you put exclamation points? I'll be happy to answer questions after we're done. So there's another way to do this. Now, this is POSIX. I'm going to show you something in POSIX. So if I want to say, you can do all kinds of things with this loop here. So you can say, I want to do for sequence. I want to do the sequence between 1 and 3, and I just want to echo the number. I just want to echo I. Oopsie. Semicolon, don't forget that. Right? Now, in Bash, you can get away with doing that without that. And there's just, I can't tell you it all. There's just so much. In Bash, though, you could do this even. You could go like to 10, to 20, and you could echo I, and you can get all of them, right? You can put like a dot, something, like that. You can do all kinds of stuff. So this is the way. But the backtick sequence thing has been around since the dawn of time. So that's sort of the Unix philosophy. If you're going to do any kind of for loops where you're incrementing the numbers and stuff, you can do that. We are not going to do any of that today. Incrementing numbers as you go is not usually the first thing you reach for in shell, mostly because you're doing something like this instead, right? You're not doing like a for loop where you're going to count numbers to a certain number or until this number equals another thing. That's a more substantial for loop. And I can tell we need to do 2 days of we should probably do 1 full day on conditions and then 1 full day on looping. So tomorrow I'll do a day on looping, so you don't need to feel like you missed anything out on that. So we'll revisit this. But let's just since I said that, let's go ahead and wrap up everything we can think about conditions. So the TLDR is read man test. All right, memorize it. Read man test. Man test tells you everything there is to know about options, how to compare the expressions, how to group them, how to negate an expression with an exclamation point. And you should be writing all kinds of examples of this, right? Write your own functions that have their own return values, 0 and 1, and then combine them in different tests. And do so. Now, there's one last thing that we cannot escape if we're going to use conditions. So now that you understand conditions, I really don't want to leave this topic without showing you this. So one of the best parts about shell is set-e. And what that says is that if any one of these conditions is false, automatically end. So this code here, if you have a -e as your assumption, becomes much easier. So then we just do this, -e 1, right? So we just do test -e1, and if there's not a 1, it'll return. That's it. Now you would want it if you wanted to echo. If you wanted to just exit, you can do that. You can like kill some of your if statements. You don't need them as much. So just experiment with that. Experiment with set-e. Try running code with it on, and then try running code without it on, and then play around with using different test combinations. and applied assert. Exactly, Brilliant. That's a perfect way to put it. So putting set-e on is like putting an applied assert. So if any line at all evaluates to false, any line at all, false being non-zero, then it automatically stops execution, period. Now, in this case, it might not be the best thing because we want to return and we want to echo something as we go. If you use this, though, you might have something like maybe you want to make a directory. Let me show something. So you might want to like make a directory that already exists. Make directory -p, home /.local/bin. Maybe there's already a bin directory, right? Now, normally that would evaluate to false. So if you do that, you might need to put or true on here. And you'll see code like this that sometimes does this. And that means I don't care if it's false. No matter what, just keep going, right? That means you're like, make directory will do this and it'll make noise saying, hey, I already have it. I don't need it. But you're fine with that. You just want to make it if it doesn't exist. And so that's why you put an or true at the end. I had to put that in there because you're going to find that in a lot of shellcode, particularly in Docker files. Docker files, a lot of them are full of this, or in the installation files, they get full of this particular idiom. An idiom is a way of writing code that is common for some reason. It's a way of speaking that's common, that has a particular meaning. So that's what's up with that. So there we go. I think that we've hit a lot of stuff here. The main takeaway is, again, man test. This is where all your conditions are. These are the only things you should be using in POSIX shell. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is why I believe you should never use brackets. And this is a very unpopular opinion, except for with really, really amazing shellcoders like the people who wrote the Docker installation file. Since seeing some of this POSIX shell for myself, I will never ever write another bracket in any shellcode I ever write, POSIX shellcode ever. It's too problematic. Okay. And let me give you the reason for this. And this, I'm going to end on this because it's the most dangerous thing when it comes to conditions. Okay. So when the danger with, so this exact code could also be written like this. All right. But let me just show you all the problems with this. All right. And this is going to be the last thing. So if you're staying up late, I'm sorry, we'll get past this. Come on, Rob. There we go. So this is the exact equivalent to the test. All right. But it's fraught with peril. So let me tell you the first thing it has wrong. So it has, it's the same code. I'm just proving to you it's the same code. The first thing that it has wrong with it is that if you accidentally don't put a space there, and people do all the time. Veterans who've been doing this for years forget that, and they come down here and they're like, why isn't my thing working? And they're like, oh crap, I forgot my space. So that's one tiny little annoyance that goes away instantly. You cannot, if you use these things, there cannot be spaces. And that's counterintuitive to everybody, particularly if you've been writing in any other language. Okay? Yeah, it ends. So if, you have to have spaces. You have to have the spaces. Now, the space before the semicolon is okay, of course. That's just nothing. It's just a line return prematurely. So it's fine. But, and I'm telling you, I cannot tell you how many times I've been typing fast and forgot to put a space, and I go try to run it, and I'm missing a stupid, I hate it. That entire problem is avoided by putting test in the front. And also in your mind, right? It's easier to type, right? So in your mind, it's like if test, and test kind of sets you up cognitively for what's coming. If the existence of this, then this. There's no like afterthought right here where you have to like do some extra thing. And I cannot tell you how valuable that is when you're writing code. I really love just being able to write if test, blah, 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 and then just my brain follows along with my code instead of like, oh yeah, the brackets mean I'm testing something. It's also easier to read. It's easier to grep. If you're trying to grep out all your conditions, you can grep out all of the test words in there and you're good. If you try to grep out all the left brackets, you're screwed. All right. Does it have to be there? It can be, we'll talk about that. That's a good question, Groove. So that's the first reason to use tests. Let me give you the second, very important. It's probably the most important reason. Single. So when you use a single bracket, somehow you feel like that makes you safe. I don't know why, but you feel like, oh, I'm fine to just do this. Right? It's like, oh, hey, I got this nice condition here and everything. You're not. You're not. Okay? And there are so many things that you can mess with on this by passing values that are not what you expect. So remember the whole thing about quote your variables, right? Well, some of that kind of goes out the window when you do this stuff, because you can say like has something semicolon ls. Let me see if I can try something. Echo muaha. So let's see if I can pass that as an argument. I don't know. I'm just trying. I might have to do. I'm trying some pretty interesting injection here, so I don't know if this is going to work. We'll try. Yeah, that should maybe do it. But I'm trying to do some shell injection here. Yeah. Oh wait, I read the wrong quote. Yeah, unexpected error. Well, I caught that one. But what I'm trying to tell you is, that it will actually run code there. So I can put like ls maybe. Let's try that. Oh, that's interesting. So the point I'm trying to make, and I don't have a good example of it right now, is that this is unsafe code. Shell check will scream at you. If you're afraid of this, just run shell check. It will scream at you, I'm sorry, you don't have double quoted stuff. And what does that have to do with brackets? Single brackets. So listen up if you're a Bash programmer. This is actually one of the best things about Bash. I think it's probably single-handedly the coolest thing about Bash that I did not know about till last year. Bash, when you use double brackets, so you'll see double brackets all the time, and you're like, this is I was in my 40s before I knew the difference. So is anybody out there? Tell me very precisely, what's the difference between single brackets and double brackets? And the short answer people will usually blurt out is double brackets are Bash, single brackets are POSIX only. And then I'll ask a question like, well, why should I use single brackets or should I use double brackets in Bash? And Google agrees with me on the answer. Always use double brackets in Bash. Always. And the reason is because, and we're not doing Bash here, we're doing POSIX, right? So it's going to yell at me and say, oh, no, that's not it. It's not a POSIX thing. So the danger with single brackets, which comes back to my point about using test instead, is that single brackets do not protect you from glob star expansion. The same thing that we talked about with the double quotes. And so when you do double brackets in Bash, there is no glob star expansion, period. This is why you can do regular expressions without any quoting, and you can include variables as is. And one of the biggest dangers of Bash, I love Bash, don't get me wrong, but one of the biggest dangers of learning how to code in Bash with double brackets in your tests is because when you do so, you start to think that the stuff in between the double brackets is safe. And so then you come back to a POSIX shell, and what do? Well, I don't have double brackets, so the next possible thing is to put a single bracket. And what happens? All hell breaks loose, right? Because now you're in a situation where you're now using glob star expansion, and your kind of lackadaisical attitude that Bash has brought you to use because of double brackets. This is why Google says to no matter what, treat them double brackets, even though they're safe, still quote them out, double quote them no matter what. Because if that code gets cut and pasted into POSIX shell code, this is dangerous. I mean, it's like really dangerous, and it allows all kinds of exploits. And so what does any of this have to do with the test keyword, right? So my way of distinguishing between these two is to never, ever use single brackets. There's no reason for them anymore. So not only is the word test more readable, right? I absolutely know when I look at this that I'm running a command and it's going to expand my stuff because I've been used to doing it on the command line. Test-e, I would never, I know when I see test, I'm like, oh, this is a command. It reminds me I'm dealing with a command on the command line that's going to be expanded just like anything else on the command line. So test is my safety net. It's my prompt. It's easier to read. It's easier to write. It's safer because it automatically tells you, oh yeah, this is not really safe double bracket expansion. And then when I write bash code, what do I use? If for some stupid reason I want to use test and not double brackets, I'll do it. But 9 times out of actually every time I can get away with it, in bash, I only use double brackets. And I think that should go for everybody. So the takeaway on this conditional stuff, and this is not captured anywhere else. I've never heard anybody talk about this, except for there's a reference to it a little bit in the Google style guideline. So use test when writing POSIX. It will help you read it better. When you combine things, you'll see your errors right away. So for example, if you try to put an and here, you got to figure out, well, how's that actually going to evaluate, right? How's it going to be parsed in and stuff? That kind of thing. Yeah, I think, does that work? Yeah, something like that probably works. So just use test. And so the takeaway is, in POSIX, just use test. Just never ever use single brackets. And that's a very, very, very unpopular, controversial opinion. People have been using single brackets since the dawn of time, and people have been getting massively owned by using single brackets since the dawn of time. Use double brackets for bash, use single brackets for POSIX, and know the difference and why. The end. Okay, and again, so it comes down, you're going to be living in the test man page anyway. Might as well use test as a reminder. This is the thing that has, every time you use a single bracket, you are using the test keyword. It's just an alias for it, sort of, effectively. So there you go. That's all I have on that. So there was another question there. What was that question there? Somebody asked a question. We usually store your scripts in local file system, user bin. It depends on if it's a container or if it's my own system. The best practice is to put it in .local bin. You're in your home directory in .local/bin. That's the short answer. You should never put anything in the system bin directory unless you know you have full control of the system and everybody needs it, or everybody needs it. Otherwise, it should go in .local. According to the Open Desktop Initiative, it should go in home/.local/bin or some derivative of there. That's the modern take on that. It looks like that's it. So, but let's just go do a review and see what I missed or didn't miss. As I've said, the purpose of this video, me talking, is covering things that are not covered elsewhere. And so you're seeing me talking about things like the test operator, why I use it, as opposed to here's how to do it, because you can figure that out. What you need to hear from me is why you might consider doing it a particular way. And so that's why I'm here. Okay. All right. Conditions alter flow. We talked about test. Avoid problematic single bracket. Use if to group commands to true. We did that. Avoid else whenever possible. Did that. We did case. Oh, we didn't do case. Damn. Case is a big one. Case needs its own day. Shoot. I wonder if we can throw signals and events in the same day. We probably can. All right, so tomorrow is, we're going to continue this. We're going to do case tomorrow. Don't let me forget. We need to do case tomorrow. Case is a huge one. Case in POSIX is used for lots of things besides what you would think. So we really have to do that. We did short circuit. It's test to check conditions. Read test man page. You really, honestly, you should memorize that one. You really should if you're going to do POSIX. What else? We talked about that case. Loops, repeat commands when conditions are met. All right, let's put loops here. And yeah, we'll put loops. I should have covered case today, but I was a little late. I would have had enough time if we hadn't. So let me cover that tomorrow really quick. And normally that would have been today. So it's supposed. When I go to review yesterday, tomorrow, I'll just remind me and I'll cover it. Because I was wondering about that, because this time right here, all this stuff here. We're not going to need a full day on signals and events. I always say that though. I always say that. They end up going 10 minutes over. So. Yeah, but see here, I put conclusion of POSIX shell scripting in there, so we have some leeway. We're going to be writing some fun code tomorrow, and we can talk about IPC and stuff. All right, I think that's good for now. I'll be editing that right away. If no one else has any questions, thanks a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the stream. Have a great night. Stay tuned if you want some more music. I'll have that right away while I redo the video. I can follow up on questions too if you didn't want to ask them publicly in front of everybody. That's fine. I'll be here for an hour or so. Bye. I'll go back to work. Check link at line 500. Thanks for all the new info. Hey, Gibbs. Thanks, everybody. Oh, you got a question above? The short circuit logic. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'll show you. You know what? Let's, Chaos, can you, well, we're going to revisit short circuit logic tomorrow. So the bottom line with short circuit logic is if any of those conditions evaluates the false, the chain stops and the evaluation stops happening. So let me give you one quick example. Are you? Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, tell me if it's got bugs, Vlad. I've only been doing it, that container. I've only been using that container for a week. So it's missing stuff. I put wget in it the other day, for example. So I don't ever use it, but people do. And things like that. So if please open tickets on it, okay? If you have any need of something that's in there. But I got most of the good stuff in there. All right. I was going to short circuit logic. Here we go. So ls dash, let's say ls something. If there's a something, how about let's use test now. So test dash, we have to use test because dash e can't be used without test, right? So otherwise we don't need it. So test dash e something and echo have. All right. Take an M out and it says no. That is the simplest of short circuit operators, right? So you could do this though. You could do, now I'm going to, test is a bad example. You could say, and if let's say, so you can actually use short circuit logic to cheat. You see this in Docker files all the time. Let me show you actually a real practical example of short circuit logic. So in my workspace, you see this in Docker files constantly. It's like abused. People abuse this in Docker files. You see all these ands here? Why? Why are all these ands in this big old shell script? So a run line in a Docker file is just a shell script. This is one massive single line of shellcode. Now, if you look at that long enough and you figure out why that works, you will understand short circuit. If anything along the track fails, you're dead. Now, you can use short circuit logic with the OR operator, 2 bars, but it's not. Usually people use that for one simple error, like test this or do this, right? So let's try this. And you can usually turn that around. So if I wanted to do this, I wanted to say test-e license, right? And echo has license, right? But maybe usually I want to see it doesn't have a license, right? So I would want to say test-e or echo does not have license. Okay? I'll take an I out just for fun. Right, it does, but I just broke it. See what I mean? Now, the problem with the OR operator is that it doesn't chain as well as the AND operator does. So I can rewrite this. So I'm just going to give you a piece of advice right now. If you're going to use short circuit logic, focus on using the AND operator and altering your conditions. It's just going to save you a headache. If you do it with an OR operator like this, then it doesn't work as well because this is true. If that's false, then it does this one, right? But only that one. And so you have to do this kind of thing. Echo something else if you want to have it do all of it, right? So test-e license, or it also doesn't read as well. So what you really meant to say there, this is why I'm just going to say it again, stick with the AND operators. If you stick with the AND operators, then you can chain all of this stuff together and anybody writing a Docker file will know exactly what you're saying because they're used to seeing it. You throw an or in there, and they're like, what? And the way you convert this is you say test that there does not exist a license. So you're making positive assertions against negative things. I know that sounds weird, but that's what it is, right? So wait, I screwed up here. Test dash. Yeah, there we go. And that will say, oh gosh, I think that might be a problem. Let me see here. Does not, oh, it does have it. So let's change it. Let's change what it tests against. So let's test it against some. If it doesn't have a file, does not have some file. You know what I mean? So where's that coming from? Now you got to be careful with your quotes here. I'm like being really loosey goosey with this. I'm doing things that I should never do. So else, there we go. And again, so it's also wrapping, which is screwing us up here because of this, the POSIX way. Yeah, it works everywhere, right? So again, if you're going to do short circuit operations and you want to just keep it simple, stick with the AND operator to join everything. You can actually put this on multiple lines, by the way. We didn't talk about line continuation, but you can put all that on one line. And then use, inverses of things like not exist as opposed to if exists or, and stick with and short circuit operations and you'll have a better day. And then it is true. It finishes and keeps it false. Yes. Yeah, it's exactly right, Juan. In fact, if you do that, the behavior of your script is identical to setting -e, that whole kind of implied assertion that every line is true. So if you want your script to fail at any moment along the way, you're writing code really fast, you don't want to do all these and operators even, you don't want to do any of that, set -e, and then just do a bunch of test lines. And if you were to do that with brackets, you'd go crazy, right? Your brackets would be ugly. You'd see a bunch of brackets in there, and what? There's the brackets with no if statement. Right? So just do tests. Like test if this file exists. Okay, test if this exists. Test this. And it looks like, and then it's actually used as kind of an assertion. And it makes your shell scripts just very effective and very easy to read. And it removes a ton of if-then logic that would otherwise be in there. So look at it that way. Again, I know I've gone over quite a bit on today, but again, the purpose of the boost is to show you what's out there, maybe touch bases on some things that are not commonly known, but not to give you all the details. So read about that and see what you can figure out. I do over and over again. Yeah, I do. I write scripts for everything. I write one-liners for everything. I don't do aliases because they don't work in VI. Aliases don't work from within VI. Scripts do. So that's the main reason for that. And that's it. That's it for me. I got to go. We'll talk to you later.